Hello, everybody, and welcome to our new webinar here with Typeform. I'm Nico. I'm a developer advocate at Typeform. I'm going to be your host for the day. This is Tune Up Your Typeform. And please drop in the comments where you're joining us from, what time it is, what you just had for breakfast or for lunch, dinner, depending on where you are in the world. We're really excited. We have a whole program for you today, and we're gonna talk about a lot of different things. So as we said, this is a special workshop that we're doing for Tune Up Your Typeform. We have a packed agenda. So first of all, I would like to introduce you the panel of experts, and they're going to join us. They're going to share their knowledge and expertise about Typeform, but also telling you what we're going to do here. What is the whole goal of this thing? This is a new format. I hope you're joining us for the whole session. And then we're going to get into some actually tuning time as you were stopping in the garage, and I'm going to fine tune some of those cool things. And then it will be time for Q&A. If you have any question, feel free to drop it in the chat. We have a team that is also behind the scene in the backstage, virtual backstage. Our community team is looking at this, and they're going to answer some of the questions live, or we can take them later on for a Q&A. Are we all ready to get started? I guess so. Watching my friends on the backstage camera. First of all, I'd like to introduce you. You're going to meet them live soon, very in a short amount of time, but two faces that you probably know if you hang out in the Typeform community or on the Typeform YouTube channel are experts Liz, who is joining us from Barcelona, exceptionally, but normally you are on in the US side or somewhere else in the world. Check out what they like the best about Typeform. She loves the brand kit, and if you haven't tried the brand kit, it's quite cool. We're also joined by Susie, who is our awesome video production lead, who's on the road right now, but otherwise is also in Barcelona. And we are also joined, and we're really grateful to welcome two of our great experts from the community. Des over here, who is running his own consulting company, has been doing a lot of Typeforms in the last few years, and excited to tune some stuff. And Baptiste here, if you read one recent blog post about how he managed to create graphs automatically using no-code technologies, this is the guy, and he has also some good expertise into automations. All right, so what are we all doing here? I guess we are here to help you out. So a few weeks ago, we sent out a whole Typeform asking people to send us their forms that they need to be improved or tuned up to see how they can do stuff differently. I think the analogy for me, if you're a kid, you watch that show where they bring like broken cars or cars that are not doing too well. Well, we're going to do this, and we're going to tune it up. We're going to put, an Xbox in the trunk. Does not, maybe this type of things. So we're going to try to improve the completion rate on your forms, trying to see how we can make a more engaging user experience, get more information about your customers or your potential clients, and hopefully streamline the whole process so it's easier. With this, you should take advantage of all the functionalities in Typeform, and you should have a better form at the end. With following all the actions that our experts have taken, we show you how you make the form a bit more bright and sparkle, how shiny, how you ask the right question, and how you turn a form in a real conversation, as well as how you use the logic to make this happen. And then finally, how you integrate your form with the rest of your marketing stack. We're going to use for this, of all the 100 forms that we have received, we had to pick some. And so we're going to use 4 real-life forms, starting with Dram team. They are a customer whiskey subscription box, and we're going to get into the more details about this. And they're using Typeform for a lot of things about their whiskey experience, tasting experience. We have Rap Visuals, who are using Typeform to capture leads on their websites to contract for their services and their video agency. We have Chafford 100 Dental, a dental company, a dental practice, and they're looking to drive more leads for Invisalign technology that helps you align your teeth and get a better smile. And then finally, we have Michael Flaw, who is running a landscape company, and they're using a Typeform to run their lead generation as well. So with this, we have a lot of different use cases, a lot of different companies in different industries, but we'll walk you through the improvements and the different things we've made. All right. So first, we have, for the first project, we have Baptiste and Des that are going to join us to talk about the DRAM team. And so this is a preview of the form that they have right now. The goal here is, once you have received your box, they want to know, with all the whiskey and all the stuff you're tasting, they want to know, how did you like this experience and which flavors, whiskeys did you prefer? And so you go through a form where you score all the stuff that you had tasted and which ones were the best. There are a few challenges here. The form is quite lengthy, and they're trying to make the experience a bit more fun. And the analyzing of the responses is a bit tricky. So hopefully our team of experts, I don't know, actually, before we get into this, let's check a video from Chris, who is the founder and the director of DRAM team. He will give us a bit more context.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Chris from the DRAM team. Thanks to Typeform for looking at our form, and glad to be here today. We're using this form to collect customer ratings of whiskies in our whiskey tasting sets, so that we can send them the next box in their subscription, more personalized to their preferences. And the idea is that iterates over time. So the number one aim of the form is to collect the scores for the whiskies, so we know what we should send them next. The secondary aim is to collect other data about what they like to drink, how many bottles they have in their whiskey collection, what they spend on whiskey, other whiskies they've bought in the past, that sort of thing. And that aim of that is, from a business point of view, to increase sales and marketing opportunities to those customers. And from a customer service point of view, to do a better job for the customer, really, of offering them products that we know that they will really like, help them find new favorite whiskies, which is sort of the whole raison d'etre of the business. So apart from that, we wanted to design the form to be relatively simple to complete at whatever level they want, and then to make it sort of fun. I'll come back to that in the challenges. So number one challenge for me was, I could ask a million questions, and I had a real difficult time balancing how much I'm asking for versus the ease of use, making sure that people complete it or bother answering all the questions, and then hitting the right tone. I like to take a relatively playful tone as a business and as a person. I think whiskey should be more fun and accessible, but in my mind there's a bit of a conflict with maybe our core demographic of customers sometimes, who might be a little bit on the more traditional side as a whiskey drinker. So those are the number two challenges for me. Look forward to the session, and thank you again. Cheers.
Amazing. Thank you, Chris. So now we have a bit more context. Now it's time to welcome on stage our two experts for this. Des, Baptiste, welcome on stage.
Hello.
Exciting to have you here.
I'm sorry, I forgot to hit my unmute.
No worries, man. So tell us a bit more about what you've done, and what you thought about, like, different ways of optimizing this form, making it look different, like following what the Chris is looking for.
Okay, I won't bring up and compare the two forms side by side, but we did one little thing on this first activation form that was the start of what Nico was showing, is that we actually made the background image a little less bright, so that the text would hop off it a little bit more. Not my specialty. There are other folks that do much better job, but we wanted to make certain that we could see it a little bit. The other part that we did in this particular form, instead of going through and having a whole series of questions asking for the name, etc.
Sorry to interrupt you. Could you please share the form if you have that?
I'm sharing it, sir. I am sharing my screen.
You're sharing your screen.
I am sharing.
It was me. No, it's here. Sorry. My bad.
Okay. All right. Let me go back. So the images, we just made it, changed the brightness a little bit so that it would come up a little bit. In the first form, what we did have was a series of questions that separated the names, the phone number, and the email. We just used the contact form to go through and streamline that information, showing some of the fields, not showing others. One of the things that we did do in that, and we looked at in the form here, was that the address block would be a good replacement for the for these 4 questions. At the moment, though, all of the clients tend to be in the UK. So from a country perspective, there's no need to use that, and we can't eliminate the country field from presentation. So we decided just to leave it at this point here inside the form. So there's not a lot of changes, mainly in the activation piece. We do have the an ending, and then we have it's a redirect over to the scoring for people to go through and do that. What we did in the scoring side, there are 2 parts to what the DRAM team had in place, was really to go through and ask people if this is the first time submitting, yes or no. And if it's yes the first time, there's a series of demographic questions. We just altered the change, a couple of the orders. Give us 5 that you've tried, and then tell us briefly about your favorite whiskeys. So walking you through the basic demographic information. You could do this in another form and then redirect back into this, but we felt let's just keep it simple in the one form for now. What we did do from the original form, it was just a series of questions. We just lumped them into a question group so that you could pass the details in. Now, this has got a drop down of the whiskeys that they're looking to rate against the cards that are in the box. We were exploring some different options around how you could do this. This allows it to be very simple. If the drop down was a multi-select, it would work rather well. But at the same time, what we've done is put together an example where in the same question, you could select multiple whiskeys. And what we've done is in this one is that we've just created a question group for each of the whiskeys that they could add or subtract and play with the logic at that point. The one thing about this is looking at a multiple select, multiple choice. So when you go through the logic rules, and I'll take this one for a second as it takes a minute to load up, going across from my igloo in Ottawa across to Barcelona, where the rain is still falling, James and Liz, I think. So we'll see how that goes. We're rambling away in the back. I must wait. But again, there's a fair raft of logic rules in here. It is slow at the moment, and I think that's because we're on the webinar. But we just made a bunch of changes at that point. Going back, while it's loading on that screen, we'll go back here. The one thing that we did do in this, and this is what Baptiste is going to talk about, is that we put in a connection in here to Airtable. And you can see that we have the Airtable connection is all set here. So I'm going to stop sharing at my end, and if there's time at the end, I'll show the logic rules. Nico, we can come back to that in the Q&A if people want. But for the moment, I'll pass it over to Baptiste to go through and look at the Airtable piece.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Des. Thanks for sharing that. So on my hand, I've worked on keeping the data organized. And so we've done only the first step of probably a multi-step process. But basically, the idea is to store the data in Airtable, which is a tool that allow you to have databases, but for business users and make automations, which is great and quite easy to use. And basically, as Des showed, we use the native Typeform integration to generate a new customer each time the first form is submitted. And so I've created a customer table, but it would adapt to what the DRAM team would need, and basically store all the customers' information in here. And the second form, which is the scoring of the whiskeys, goes into a second table, which are the scores, and is then linked to the customer, which was created previously, and all the information of the scores are saved here. And as I was saying, it could be a first step of organizing the data about the customer taste and what they have tasted and what could be next to send over to them. That's basically it. And as this showed, it's really only the Typeform automation, the native one, which saves you the information perfectly.
That's great. So with this, you're able to check over time what someone has liked, and then keep track of this.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the challenges, was the analysis and how to organize these data afterwards. So as a recap, we saw that you added different question types instead of asking. Thank you, Zoom. Instead of asking the question in one at a time, you use the contact block, you use the address block, and a bit of question grouping. Really cool, guys. I don't know if anybody has comments on what they just saw, but please let us know. And I think we are ready to move on to our next case. And so for this, we looked at the form from Wrap Visuals. They are an agency that is doing a lot of crazy video shots, and they have a contact form on their website, as you can see in the screenshot, where they ask people to leave their details and talk about the project they're trying to build. And obviously they need to drive and know more about the people's projects. And let's see the testimonial we get from Austin and give you a bit of context.
Hi, my name is Austin. I'm the owner and creative director of Wrapped. We are a video production company based here in Tumwater, Washington in the Pacific Northwest. I have been using Typeform for a number of years now. We used it at a previous creative agency that I was at. So it was a natural choice when we needed a submission form on our new website for our production company. Typeform is super easy to work with and integrates seamlessly with our WordPress-based site. We recently did some upgrades to our site, and so I thought it would be awesome to submit our form for a tune-up because I would love to have it match aesthetically with our website and maybe add a little bit of additional functionality to it to make it more seamless for clients to submit their information when they're inquiring to work with us. Looking forward to seeing what you guys over at Typeform come up with, and maybe how it'll affect our future inquiries.
All right. Thank you, Austin. So let's check with Susie and Liz what you've been up to and what you did. Hi, welcome on stage.
Hello, can you hear me and see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the first thing I did, which is quite obvious, is that I redesigned the form. I added the colors and the font and the logo. So I did that here in the design panel. This fits in a little bit better with your website from what I saw. Another thing then that you can do, which I added, is a welcome screen. And on the welcome screen, I added a video. So I know this looks like a static image right now, but if you click preview, you can see that it is actually a video that's looped. So within Typeform, you have the option to, let me just go back here, to add images or videos to individual questions. So you can play with the design a little bit if you don't want to keep the same design for every question. So I added an image here from our Pexels video library. You can see in the video tab, you can search any type of video. You can't actually put your own video in this format, unfortunately, but you can search the high resolution videos from Pexels to get a little bit more dynamic with your form. And then I also, as an alternative, added embedded your video, one of your videos from your Vimeo page onto a separate question. So this is just another way that you can showcase your own work throughout your form. And then what I did was I played around a little bit with the structure. So I think the original form had 3 questions. I bulked it up a little bit. So I did add this welcome screen to just kind of welcome people to the form. And then I think the first 2 questions was the name and email. So I just consolidated those into the contact form question. And that way you can also add the company name at the bottom. And then in the following question, I recalled that company name to make it a little bit more personal. And I think you had mentioned when you submitted the form that you wanted to be able to tell the difference between an external agency or maybe somebody working at the company. So why not just ask that question directly? And then I added a couple more questions, one related to the timeline of the project and one related to the budget of the project. So I felt like this was maybe, I mean, these ranges are just random ranges that I chose, but this can kind of help you set expectations for customers to say, these are the timelines and the budgets that we work with. But then it could also give you more information on which leads maybe are more realistic or which leads you can prioritize. And then I added that final question that you had in your form just to get a bit more information about the project. And I think this is the only question that I didn't make required. So they can hopefully they will add more information here, but you are still getting a bit more information from the questions that you've asked previously. And then finally, added just a thank you screen at the end to say thank you and to give them a bit more information about what comes next, and a link here to this button where they can check out your Vimeo page and all the work that you've done. And so related to these questions here about the timeline and the budget, these are also great for scoring the form and prioritizing your leads. So I'm going to hand it all over to Liz for that part.
Yes, so this is where I come in with the logistical bit, I'll say. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. So one of the first things that I did was set up scoring on the form. And even though the form may seem small and you're like, oh, maybe we don't need to do that, we'll talk to every lead. I think, especially if you're in your creative business, you know that not every lead is created equally. So I kind of created some made up scoring here, but essentially I added scores to every single different question. So for example, maybe someone that has a higher budget is a better lead. Someone that has a short time frame, maybe not. You know, you could set this however you want to. And then from there, sorry, our faces are in the way. There we go. I also then set up follow-ups. So if you haven't used this feature, it's a really handy feature, especially if you have a lot going on. I set up 2 different types of follow-ups. So you don't have to just notify yourself of every single, lead coming in. You could, set a notification. If the lead is really good, you could set a notification saying the lead is not so good, however you want to define it. So I made up some notifications here, say that maybe if they have a score above 15, they're a really great lead. And in that case, you probably want to be notified everywhere. So here in the notification settings, it's going to look for when the score is above 15. And when it does have that, it's going to send an email to whoever you want to send it to. I just put in my email for now. And then it's also going to send a Slack notification. Now, if you don't use Slack, you could also use Zapier or one of the other integrations we have here to notify you wherever you want to. I think if you do work in a creative agency, this is really important because the better the lead, the faster you probably want to get back to them. But say they have a really low budget and a quick time frame, I don't know, whatever the criteria is. I put a notification here so that if the score is below 0, it'll just send a notification. But for example, you could also add them to your CRM and send an email saying, hey, we're not a great fit, but follow along for these tips. There's a lot you could really do with follow-ups and other integrations, but this is just a really basic example of how you can do it if you're looking for the most simplest way to set it up. And I'll hand it back to you, Nico.
Well, thank you. That's amazing. Turning a form of a couple of questions into already something that is more conversational, personalized, and that gives you better leads. Good job, team. Love it. As a reminder, if you want to check the different forms and in their final form, Grace is sharing their link in the chat. And you can also see live the feedback we got from Austin here and Chris early on, and different links as well to the resources if you want to build this at home, how you use the follow-up, how you use the logic, all these type of things. All right, so we are already moving to our third use case and example customer of the day. This is about the Shafford 100 dental practice, and they're using Typeform for lead generation for an audience that is between 18 and 55 years old, and they're trying to drive more sales into this Invisalign program, where they send you like stuff to align your teeth, and so there's a bit of education to be made on what is this technology. And sometimes apparently people don't go all the way, they don't give all the details. Design could be improved, and definitely some stuff about integration. And so for this, we got Susie and Des. They're going to talk to us about what they've done. And let me find Susie. Welcome
Yes.
back.
I am back. Thank you very much. Okay, so for this one, again, tackling the design, I think if you saw the original form, there was a bit of a mismatch between the images and what was at least the positioning of the images and how they looked on the form, as well as a bit of a misalignment with the branding of the form and the branding of the company. So what I did is I updated the design using brand kits. So this is a feature that we have where you can actually create your own brand within Typeform and upload assets like logos, your color palette, and different images that you can then use throughout all the Typeforms that you create. So once you upload these assets, you can then create 3 different themes from these assets. So I created a theme for each different color palette that they have. So if we go back into the form, you can see here in the design tab in the theme section, you can easily swap out which design you want based on your own branding. So I went with this white simple one. I mean, white can be boring, but I think in the context of dental care, it's actually quite effective. So here you can see the logo in the top corner. And then for the questions, I added some images that either you can upload them yourself through your brand kit, or you can use our Unsplash library for images. So here I used just the image gallery and searched for smiley people. It's not hard to find a lot of smiling faces on Unsplash. So each question has a different image. One thing that's really important to note is the different options between mobile and desktop layout. So you can actually optimize now how your form looks on a desktop or a mobile device. So here, for example, if you upload an image, chances are on mobile, it will automatically default to this. But if you want to optimize it for mobile, you can now change where it shows up, and it won't affect the way that it looks on desktop. But actually, mobile is one of the most popular ways that people fill out Typeforms. So it's super important to make sure that you optimize your images in your form for both mobile and desktop. And then I think another one of the changes, I didn't really touch the questions too much, mostly just this welcome screen here. I used the little AI feature here to optimize the text, which you can use if you have, I think, more than 10 words. You can use this optimize text button, and it'll come up with options for you to shorten or change the text to make it sound a little bit better. So I used that for their welcome screen. And yeah, just basically went through the form and added some nice images to kind of help people show people what their teeth could be if they got Invisalign. So I'm going to now pass it over to Des to see what he did from the other side.
Thank you. Hopefully I got off mute this time okay. So you can see on my screen that we have a number of endings. If you had looked at Susie's form in the bottom left, you would have seen that there's some endings in there. So what we've done is basically go through and allowed to do some segmenting and some redirection to a Calendly booking page for a couple of different pieces. Just to give you an idea as well, we've also added in, because I'm using the logic rules and it will not record which ending they're routed to, I've added just a simple variable that I use called v-ending and set it to a default of a little more info. That will go to number A, just so that in the logic rules, we can keep track of what ending they're going to. And then when we get into looking at the logic rules around here, what we did was basically go through and just look at some of the use cases and the answers that were coming in and where we wanted to route them. So if they had a deep overbite and needed more info, we would send them to ending A. So just going through the choices throughout the entire scenario. But what we did was just, what ending are they going to? Defining those in replacing the variables, and then we get the go-tos that jump out and send people off to the various endings and to the Calendly pages. Now, one of the things about the Calendly side is that we put the Calendly question at the very end of the form. And that's because we've got all the information we've collected, the addresses, and we're actually redirecting to this form. You're capturing the information before you send them over. Now, what I'm showing on here is actually the integration from the form, the second type form that we have, over to a calendar event that I had created in Calendly under my own calendar, just as an example for this particular area. And then what happens is it goes off to ending to show the pieces. So we're redirecting to this form. And this is one way that we find that a lot of people are using to make certain that the details are captured before they go and then book the Calendly part. There were a lot of folks that were complaining or commenting in the community that as you were going through and you had a Calendly question in there, that people would forget to go beyond the Calendly question and hit the submit button at the end of the form. And that was a problem because you got a booking, but you didn't get any of the details about the individual that they'd filled in before. So just a quick little best practice. You can always use that redirect at the tail end to go through and do that. Again, I had set up 2 versions for this that go over, and one was for a booking, an immediate booking if they had an immediate need and had the money aside. The other one was to go through if you wanted to discuss payment plans that they could go to. So we've got 3 different basic endings that they're going to that would allow folks to get more info, get details, etc. Now, 2 things you can do with this information is move this into your CRM or into an email automation sequence that you could send and follow up immediately with a series of emails. If they wanted more information, send them the details. You could then go through and follow that up. Did you get the details? And then you could go into some testimonials about people who've used the service and change those areas. We're not covering those at this point, but these are logical sequences you could do. And that V ending variable that I described, that would be equivalent of a tag that you could pass into the area, and it would tell you which sequence that they would want to be dropped into at that point in time. So just a quick way that we went through and added in some of the logic at that point. And Nico, I'm done with this part.
No, well, thank you. I think you definitely improve the whole experience in terms of look and feel, in terms of making, like, representing the brand. And it's when you go to the dentist is always a serious topic, and so you want to make people comfortable, and I think you do that greatly. Well, thank you both. And now I see a few questions that people have regarding the Calendly integration, how it works on mobile, and also what you just mentioned, this about people forgetting to go all the way to the end to submit the meeting. And so what you just recommend, I think it's a great tip for that. All right, so time to move to our last customer study of the day, where we're gonna help Michael and his landscape business, Liz and Baptiste, work on this. And so this is a lead qualification questionnaire where they ask a bunch of questions regarding your project and what you're trying to achieve. With this, they hope to find that they're the right team, and they provide a quote. Right now, the form is a bit long, it's asking a lot of questions, and so all the people that might be interested might not go all the way to the end. So see how we can simplify this user experience. And then also, Michael had a question about connecting this to monday.com, which is kind of like a database project organization tool that they're using. So Liz and Baptiste, very curious to see what you have for us.
We have a lot. So we made a lot of changes to this form. The biggest change that we made was actually splitting the form into 2. So I think I can't even remember the original amount, but I think the original form had maybe like 35 to 40 questions, which might be a little intimidating to anyone that is just reaching out for the first time to any architect. So on part 1 of the form, I narrowed it down to about 8 questions. Some of these I think you could still remove if they're not needed, but it's really just asking like the most bare minimum of the questions that's needed. Like email, address, phone, how they found them. Budget 1. There is actually quite a few questions for the budget, and I also narrowed this down. I know, especially if you have like a creative or a contract service, it can be a little scary to be like, this is our budget right away. But I think it's okay to just say it, even if that does detract leads, because that way the leads that you're getting are ones that are they already know what a budget that you work with. I think I mismatched this, but I basically reduced the amount of options there were for the budget. I think before it had like a long list of budgets that weren't even in I can't even think of the word, in the realm of what they work with. So I only added in the ones that they do work with. And then in case you can't tell, I also spruced up the form a little bit. I am not Susie and I am not good with design. So here's what it looks like when you're not good with design. Thankfully, Typeform makes you look like a designer. I originally was going to use BrandKit because I really do love BrandKit, but I know not everyone has a plan with BrandKit. So instead, what I did is I just added a bunch of photos from the website to the background and kind of placed them different throughout, and also changed how they look on mobile and desktop. And then I added the logo at the top. It's probably not added like perfectly, but it's in there. It gets the job done. And then for part 2, this is the other form. So the thought with this is once they've reached out, they're a good fit for the architects. This is where all of those questions come in that ask like a lot more detailed questions. With these, I did some sprucing up of the questions, like making sure they were yes, no questions, making sure there were number questions, just to make sure that somebody doesn't enter like an A in there if the gate code is 1, 2, 3. I also added in some logic to help speed up the form a bit. For example, some of these questions ask like if the project address is different than your mailing address. The original form just went through all the questions without logic, but I added in logic so that way if someone clicks like yes or no, they would be sent the question accordingly. So it's pretty simple logic. It's not too scary. And it's pretty easy to set up for those yes, no questions and skip over the ones that they don't need. I think that's all I did for these 2. It felt like so much that I'm like, it's a whole new form and I can't remember the first one, but Baptiste, I'll send it to you for the Monday bit.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. I think they look great, honestly. So in this case, we're going to look at monday.com, which is the tool that they use for CRM. We didn't have access to their own tool, so we made a simple one with lead, contacts, and deals. And so here, there is actually a monday.com native integration with Typeform, but I felt that there were a couple of limitations in terms of fields that were possible to fill out. So for instance, this one was a native one, but the phone and a couple of other fields were not populated. So what I did instead is that I created make.com integration. And so as Liz splitted the 2 forms, we have 2 integrations. One is to create a lead each time the first form is created. And so there is nothing crazy about it. It's just populate the information with all the information required in here, so it can be stored and easy to browse and easy to find for the customer. And what the second form does is that the second form is more like a deal management. And so each time the form is submitted, we search the contact. So the first form creates a lead and a contact automatically with monday.com. And then we search the contact and we create the deal and associate the deal with the contact. So things are completely organized and easy to find. In here, I've only added a couple of information that we could have all the information required to make the decision and deal with the prospect. And I think that's pretty much it. The good thing with the implementation of Make, it adds another tool, obviously, but it could also improve the communication with the lead. We could have a scoring, for instance, in the Typeform, and based on the scoring, send an email or send an email to the customer or to the internal team. There are many things that can be done, and basically it could be the first step for them. In this case, only manage well the information, but then it could add more logic based on their need. But the first need to address was to store the information correctly and integrate with their own tool, which is monday.com. Over to you, Nico.
Yeah, amazing team. Love the creativity and how you turn this form into something totally different. And also what you do is Make. I don't know if anybody else in the chat is using Make, but this is quite powerful. Can do a lot of automation, connect a lot of tools together. And so with this, we've tuneup. This team has tuneup. I haven't done anything, but this team of experts has tuneup 4 typeforms today that they have to decouple sometimes into 2 typeforms. So that's a lot of typeforms. So kudos to all of you. And this is time for us for questions. So if you have any questions about things you could do, things that you've seen on Typeform right now, feel free to use the Q&A option. Just drop it there. And if you see a question over there that resonates with you, give it an upvote, and that gets you to the top. Also, reminder to check the chat. A bunch of links over there on like how to use Typeform and how to check the forms that were created. I can already start with one question that we had early on from Alice. Can you have a unique design for your welcome screen, or must it be one background through the whole form? And I think this question, Susie, might be for you because you showed exactly that.
Yeah, exactly. I think one thing I maybe forgot to mention while I was presenting that is that I chose the full page layout for the video. So that's kind of a trick to, if you do want a separate image on your welcome screen or on any other page, you can just choose the full page mode on the layout, and it'll actually show up as the background. And what I like to do to kind of design my background as well, because I make a lot of typeforms for videos, is I usually do a design in Canva. So it'll be like a nice little image or a graphic or something with a nice color. And that's a really nice way to create like a nice welcome screen with some text or something like that. It says, "Welcome to my Typeform," or whatever you want it to say. But yeah, that's definitely an option.
Well, thank you, Jack. Thank you for sharing this tip of using Canva. That's a great tool if we're not designer to make it less look designer. Amazing. We also had a question from Eduardo regarding linking Typeform and VideoAsk. I think it's through some of the examples that we had today, receiving feedback or describing your project, we could have used VideoAsk. VideoAsk is another product of Typeform. Lise, do you want to answer that?
I think it maybe depends on what they want to link it up. Like, for example, if you want to embed a video ask in a Typeform, you can. We will have some features coming in the future that may help with this. But for example, if you want to, yeah, it really just depends how you want to link them together. But you can add a video ask in a Typeform if that helps. Or if you want to have someone fill out a video ask and then a Typeform, you could use make like Baptiste showed. It kind of just depends how exactly you want to go.
Or even embed the video ask in a Typeform. That's also possible.
Yeah.
We had also a question, Des, for you from Kisha. What was the redirect Des mentioned for Calendly? Could you walk through that again?
The redirect on that part. What I did in there was simply go through and in the form, I will. Is it okay to share it up again, Nico, just for a quick second?
That's what I'm trying to do. Yes.
Okay. You just call it up. I'll go over to the questions at this point. When we're going through the question, in this particular case, from 8 at this point, what we have is that we have some logic that there is a Calendly question that we could add into the form here. But what we did was that based on the logic, we had it set up so that you would redirect to a URL of the Calendly form that you create at that point. So you would go through, when the person gets to this question number 8, they hit the submit button at that point, and based on the answers, it would take you to, we've heard you, we've sent you some more information. Okay, this one was more around just general hygiene information in Invisalign. And then we had these two, again, the redirects. So based on include the URL to the second form with the email and the first name, which are hidden fields in the second form. So it passes in and automatically populates in the Calendly component. It automatically populates the name and address. So that's what we were doing to send that particular part. In the form, what we have over here, I'll just go to the logic, the variables, hidden fields. We have email and name in the Calendly form so that it's coming in. And so all we're doing is that once we go through and share that back, the link will come up, and it has the, I'll just go to the end. It has the email and name set up as the access. So this is all we're doing, is using hidden fields and the variables to pass it based on submit to do a redirect in these forms. Hopefully that helps to answer the question.
Yeah, I mean, let's check in the follow-up if yeah, it looks like Kisha loved it. Perfect. I see, Baptiste, you're also engaged in a conversation regarding Airtable. Maybe do you want to share it with the rest of the group here? Why you picked Airtable? What do you use it for?
Yeah, so initially we discussed with Chris, and he has, I think, a great way to identify the different taste of the customers, and he built himself a sheet that is easy to use, but requires a bit of manual work in order to understand the customer need, the customer taste, and follow up on their scoring. And what the Airtable allows is to keep things organized. First, it's way better, as Liz was pointing out. It's easier to use. It's easier to filter. It's easier to manage the data. And as the business grows, a Google Sheet or an Excel kind of becomes cumbersome to use. So in terms of integrations, it's pretty much the same. In some cases, the Excel just might be enough, but as the business grows, probably the Airtable is better suited to manage the data. Then, in order to analyze the data, we'd have to see exactly what are the steps to do it. But it's very flexible, so you would be able to do pretty much the same thing in Airtable as in Google Sheet, but in a more organized way, let's say.
And it's all connected. So if you need to push to other tools and do some other workflows, this is also very powerful.
So if for some very custom things you need to push to another tool, or even including to Google Sheet for a very specific analysis with some pivot table or whatever fancy Google Sheet things or Excel are possible. It's also possible to link both, and actually from Airtable, you could have the direct links to these different documents that you have around, and Airtable can be your dashboard and the central place to manage the business and the customer information.
Yep, cool. Well, thank you. We have 5 minutes left. I'm trying to group some question. We have a question regarding using videos in form. Does it add lag to the video, or to the whole loading experience? And do you feel that people will stay longer in the form and they're a bit more engaged from your experience? I don't know, Susie, as you've added a video to yours.
I don't actually know. I guess it technically could, but I'm not actually sure how much of a difference it would make, to be totally honest.
Yeah, in terms of loading, what we do technically is like we try to have a version of the video in different formats, so it should load faster and in smaller resolution depending on which device you're on. And we may even have a placeholder where like we can't load the video, we'll just show you a static image instead. Yeah, if you're concerned about people in remote areas trying to load your form, maybe just load a static image instead. Pop. What else did we have? Oh, there was a recommendation about a whole recommendation about do we have stats about how long a form should be, how many questions we should ask, and until what point people drop? I feel we had a bunch of blog posts about this in the past on recommendation on how to make your form really shine. Please, I see you nodding. Do you have stats to share? Or
I don't know them off the top of my head. I'm not a numbers person, but I'm pretty sure
Okay.
we do have it on our blog posts. I think, and I could be wrong, so please don't quote me on this, but I know they say the recommendation is probably around like 10 or something. But again, it's on the blog because I can't remember numbers.
yeah,
and
also that
you can also post it.
Yeah, exactly. And also this is your opportunity to talk about something we launched quite recently, which is the partial submit point. So as you're going through the form, if you don't want the form to be too long and you don't want people to drop and lose the information that they've put inside, you could add a breakpoint in the middle where at least through this point, everything that was submitted before, you will receive it. So you don't lose this. All right. Perfect. So I think the other question we're probably going to answer via text directly. But I wanted again to thank you, our panel of experts, Des, Baptiste, joining us from the community, hacking on Typeform all the time, and then Lise and Susie as well. You are living the Typeform product. So thank you so much for tuning up for this first time event. What's next for us? Well, as many have asked, we are going to share the recording of this webinar. We're going to share this via email, but also in the community, so it stays there forever. We want to know what you thought about this, and so we have a form coming up, and guess what? It's a Typeform. So we want to know what you think about this format. And if you want to stay on top of all the news that we have our monthly newsletter, and definitely we need your form next time for probably an episode 2. If you want to be featured here as a form that needs to be tuned, or if you want to be an expert tuning up Typeforms, please reach out. Once again, that was amazing to have you all here, and we'll see you online somewhere soon. Thank you.